A local athlete is heading to the Paralympics, and the community couldn't be more proud. I'm Bronte Sorotsky with how they showed their appreciation to her, coming up.
Plus, we are taking a trip to Arma, Kansas, and seeing how this small town with a big heart is honoring their 4 state heroes from World War II.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, thanks as always for tuning in. I'm Mike Mahoney. Carthage's very own Haven Shepard is on her way to Tokyo to join Team USA's Paralympic swim team. But before her flight, supporters of the athlete came out to give her a proper send-off. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky caught up with the swimmer and her teammates before her departure.
People in Carthage were up extra early Saturday morning to cheer on Carthage's own Haven Shepard, who's heading to Tokyo for the 2020 Paralympics. And Shepard can't wait to begin.
I feel good. I feel ready to leave. It's just something you talk about for so long, and now it's finally happening. And I'm just excited to get this adventure started.
Shepard was escorted around the square on a fire truck while the community cheered her on. But the parade in Carthage is where the celebration just began. Behind me here at the Joplin Regional Airport is where things really took off.
Our coach sent out a reminder and he was like, hey, we're all going to send her off. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. I don't want to skip out. This is something so surreal and so cool. I won't get a second chance at this.
Teammates of Shepard surprised the athlete before she boarded her first flight.
We decided that we were all going to dress up in crazy red, white, and blue, bring everyone's friends, everyone's family, and come and send her off. And she actually did not know about it, which is great, but also I think we freaked her out a little bit at first, but I think she totally loved it, and I'm so glad we did it.
She walked through the doors, she looked back at us and had a big grin on her face.
Now, Shepard is focused on having fun and enjoying her Paralympic experience.
I just want to go and be myself. That's what I've done for the past 8 years I've been swimming. I've just been myself, and the fact that I got to be on this level, just not putting too much pressure on myself, and I'm not going to go in with too big expectations. I just got to swim fast, and that's what I do at every competition. So I just think of this as just another race. It's nothing's different.
In Joplin and Carthage, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
A man from Bentonville is dead following a crash near Jane in McDonald County. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says 56-year-old Emerson Boshears from Bentonville was riding on his motorcycle on Missouri Highway 90 near Jane around midnight last night when he drove off the road and hit a ditch. Boshears was pronounced dead at the scene. All right, let's switch it up and let's talk weather with meteorologist Nick Kelly. Nick.
We had a pretty good day overall, Mike. Thankfully, a break from the heat and humidity, certainly after the upper 90s on that sweltering Thursday that we're still trying to get out of our minds. But 71 this morning, not too bad today with afternoon highs around 87 degrees. Most of us have stayed dry for much of the day, but earlier this afternoon and this evening, we were watching just a few showers, a couple of thunderstorms. Again, very far southern counties, but that activity is winding down, and any of the severe weather that's trying to hold together coming out of Nebraska, that doesn't have a shot of making it here either. But with the frontal boundary stalled on top of the region still, we are going to have to put up with another day with isolated storm chances tomorrow. But we're dry to start the morning out. Lows drop back to 66. And not bad tomorrow either, Mike. Highs near 86, but again, maybe a stray storm in the afternoon. But will these numbers hold for the rest of the week ahead of us? We'll break that forecast down here in a bit.
All right, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Thank you, Nick. Humboldt, Kansas is a quiet little town of about 2,000 people, but that's on any other day but today. War broke out on the square, but this one was fought with super soakers and garden hoses. KOM's Chris Warner checked it out.
If you grew up in Humboldt, you may remember the infamous battles fought on the square.
It is a resurrection of a wonderful event that we did started in the 1980s. The Humboldt Fire Department did it, and it went through the 90s, and it's been quiet for a long time. So 2 years ago, we brought it back, and this is a thing that our town loves to do.
Love for the water wars is barely enough of a word to describe it. The town came out Saturday. Kunkler estimates they had nearly 1,000 people in 2019, which is roughly half the city. She thinks she knows why.
It's just nostalgia, and we have all this revitalization coming back. We're just ready to celebrate with our town and everybody from the region, and it's just outdoor play.
You've seen what looks like the fun part. Kids spraying each other with their water guns, chasing around the streets. But the real fun kicked off at 11 a.m. when the fire department led a parade of floats around the square and fought back. soaking those hanging around on the side, including us. But in these dog days of summer, it's a welcome gush of water for folks like Crystal Williams and her daughter Isabel.
It's been really hot this summer. It's been really hot recently, and it's going to be nice to cool off and get wet. And it's pretty shady here on the square, and it's going to be just a good relief from the hot weather.
Williams says it's great to be back out and having some fun in the sun.
It's nice to be back out in public, and I feel pretty safe doing it. We've all been vaccinated, so we're ready to get our life back on track.
The Williams live just outside of Humboldt, between Iola and the city. The blast of water continued. Water guns were fired. The carnage unimaginable as hundreds of people ended up drenched. Rick Sharp brought his grandkids up from Chanute after seeing the large buckets of water around town on Friday.
I look around and I just see a lot of smiles on faces and everybody's having a good time. I think Humboldt is doing an awesome job to organize and do something like this.
Sharp says he was trying to stay dry.
I was kind of planning on staying in the dry zone, and I've got a little bit wet, but not too bad. And actually, there's a lot more water being sprayed than I expected.
Water as far as the eye could see. Not from a heavy thunderstorm, but from a heavy dose of fun. Something the people of Humboldt were thrilled to take part in. In Humboldt, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Well, that looks like a lot of fun. And this looks like fun too. The annual Shoal Creek Waterfest took place today at Wildcat Glades in Joplin. The event features a number of fun activities for people to enjoy, including a fishing derby, live music, food trucks, boat races, and a whole lot more. The festival also provides some helpful information when it comes to safety on the water. Organizers say it's a great opportunity to get outdoors and have some fun before summer runs out.
It's just a really good opportunity. The kids get so into it. They all spend a lot of time making their own boats and then really getting to cheer themselves on as they go through. And we do it as a tournament style. So there's a little competition going on as well. And it's a really fun event that everyone seems to really enjoy.
And in addition to cardboard boat races, there was also a rubber duck race. Today was the second day of move-in weekend for Pitt State students. Student volunteers say this year's move-in was a bit more normal than last year's because it was the first year they were able to help out again. One volunteer offered up some advice for incoming freshmen and other new students at PSU.
I would say my biggest piece of advice would be surround yourself with the people that you want to be. Don't conform to anything. Place yourself in an environment that you like and that you're comfortable with.
And Pitt State's move-in day will continue tomorrow, and students will return to classes on Monday. The Honey Badger Gym in Joplin is launching a nonprofit to help get adults out and exercising. The new nonprofit, called Jackson's Badgers, is aimed at developing an adaptive fitness program for adults who would be otherwise unable to participate in fitness. The organizer, Olivia Lotvin, has spent the last 5 years teaching special education at Joplin High School, and she is working to ensure that those students remain active throughout adulthood.
So Jackson's Badgers, to me and to us, is just a place for children and adults with disabilities to be a part of something, and for us that means a part of a gym. So healthy bodies, healthy minds, and to just create a place where everyone feels comfortable and safe, and also for their families to feel like they can be a part of something, and so that's our mission.
Wilson says right now they are focusing on adults, but through fundraising efforts like today, they are hoping to add a children's group as well. Folks in and around Arma, Kansas had a blast as they spent the day honoring their very own four-state heroes. It was all part of Arma's 75th annual VJ Homecoming celebration. The party celebrates Arma veterans returning home from World War II back in 1946 and featured a ton of fun things for folks to enjoy, including a classic car show, plenty of fun and games for the kids, tasty treats, and a whole lot more. One of the volunteers helping put on the event told KOAM a little more about the event's rich history.
We're proud that we had 3 families that sent 5 boys apiece, and they all survived and came home and became community members. And so every year since 1946, we've had a homecoming, to celebrate our veterans and to show our thanks for their service.
And there's still time to check out all the fun in Arma, Kansas. Tonight from 8 to 11 p.m., the folks in Arma are getting their groove on with a street dance party featuring a live DJ. VetLinks, an organization aimed at getting veterans suffering from PTSD and substance abuse help, hosted their 2021 Cav Fest charity golf tournament in Pittsburgh today. The event honors Jessica Kavanaugh's husband, Major Brian Kavanaugh, who passed away while raising money to support veterans get the help they need. Kavanaugh says the event is a celebration of life and that the event helped his vision of helping veterans come to life.
And what was a vision of helping one family to not have to go through the turmoil that our family did and that how Brian struggled, and to be able to help 100 families at this point, it's absolutely amazing, and we're so proud and we're so honored.
90 players showed up to this year's Cav Fest, and all the proceeds will go towards supporting veterans and their families. It's now time to honor one of our many four-state heroes, and tonight we pay tribute to Dakota Bingham of Parsons, Kansas. Dakota served as a fireman in the Navy, and he served on the USS Patriot. Thank you, sir, for your courage and your service. For more information on all our four-state heroes, or to nominate your own, just log on to KOAMNewsNow.com.
Neoshow 20th on Fox.
We were able to keep things nice and thankfully not so humid as well as we continue throughout the course of the day. Granted, to start the time lapse out of indigo sky outside of Seneca, Missouri, quite a bit of cloud cover to start the morning out, and for some of you, if you like showers to start the morning out, but thankfully most of us kept dry during the day with some peaks of the sun before we hit sunset not too long ago. As far as temperatures are concerned, it is always a good sign if we see 80s on this map, as high as the numbers go at any point during the month of August, especially considering we were still pushing upper 90s on Thursday. But mid 80s yesterday, we dropped back to 71 this morning, and at least pushing 86, about 87 degrees for afternoon highs today at Joplin Regional. Most of the area stayed dry for much of the afternoon, but that being said, we were keeping an eye on just a few, and I mean a few, isolated showers and a couple of thunderstorms that were trying to fire off and move south from about Pineville, Knoll, Southwest City, and south of Siloam Springs as you work deeper into northwest Arkansas, but that activity is pretty much gone. And this is how the radar is going to look. We'll keep it nice and dry as we go through the rest of the night ahead of us, with the skies above still looking okay. Still a bit warm. It feels like 76 because not only is it 76, but there's a low enough dew point to where it doesn't feel so muggy to be out and about late on this Saturday night. Most of us in the mid 70s still, and not much of a heat index, thankfully, but in a few spots you could feel like the upper 70s still to near 80 degrees in a couple spots as well. But we're getting another break in our slight rain chances, and so is much of the four-state region. Even though there are still a couple of severe thunderstorms trying to come out of western Nebraska and clip northeastern Colorado, far northwestern Kansas. Those, however, don't have a shot of making it here. But as long as our frontal boundary is still in place for tomorrow, we'll deal with a few more isolated storms in the afternoon before we see a big change in our upper level setup, try to bring in better rain chances down the road. But as long as it still looks like this for tomorrow, we stay on the cooler side of the jet. That means we keep the heat away. A nice way to wrap up the weekend as we head into Sunday. Everyone's looking okay overnight. We'll drop lows back into the mid 60s. Then after we get into the lower 80s to start the noon hour out, we'll see afternoon highs back around 86. So the day planner has us at 66 in the morning, 82 by noon, and a high of 86. Almost similar to what we saw today. Late in the afternoon, you see that thunderstorm icon, just like today. Maybe a random thunderstorm or two in our southern counties. Then they'll fade away with the setting sun. We'll start mild again for Monday morning before we deal with, surprise, surprise, a few more isolated storms with highs in the mid-80s once again as we go into Monday. Monday, though, look at this upper low developing out in central parts of Kansas. This will be on top of the region Tuesday through Wednesday, and this should result in a good scattering of thunderstorms and quite a bit of cloud cover on Wednesday. And you can see what that does with temperatures. After 86 tomorrow, we'll go 87 on Monday, 89 Tuesday. But with all the cloud cover we're expecting on Wednesday, we might be lucky if we can hit 83. That's unheard of for a high in August, but we'll have to head back to 91 on Thursday. Then our next front by the weekend, Mike, will bring us back into the 80s, and with keeping some rain chances in the forecast, which we could actually use some around here.
No complaints from me. It sounds pretty good, especially considering the last few weeks. Thanks so much, Nick. All right, we've got an update on Haiti. At least 227 people were killed when a major earthquake hit Haiti this morning. There's concern that the death toll could reach into the thousands. Hundreds of people have been injured and hundreds more are unaccounted for. The quake struck about 80 miles west of Port-au-Prince, destroying churches, homes, businesses, and roadways. It had a magnitude of 7.2. Haiti's prime minister said he was rushing aid to affected areas where some towns were destroyed and hospitals were overwhelmed with the injured. He's declared a one-month state of emergency for the entire country. When we return, a battle is brewing between the governor of Florida and the White House.
The White House sparring with the state of Florida over its ban on mask mandates in schools. I'm Christina Coleman. More on that story coming up.
On Fox.
A battle is brewing over masks in schools between the White House and the state of Florida. The federal government is offering to step in and pay the salaries of any educators who defy the Florida governor's orders. Fox News' Christina Coleman has the latest.
The White House getting increasingly involved in states' approach to the coronavirus crisis. In Florida, a recently passed law bans mask mandates in schools, but several districts have vowed to implement them anyway. Governor Ron DeSantis warning school leaders the move could put their salaries at risk.
You shouldn't have government forcing kindergartners to wear masks for 8 hours a day. That should be a decision for the parent.
On Friday, the Secretary of Education announcing that Florida educators who are denied funding for implementing mask mandates could get reimbursed by the federal government with money that's been approved for COVID relief.
While we're all kind of tired of wearing the mask, we want to make sure that our children are safe, and we want to make sure that they have a chance to learn in the classroom.
They have this obsession with Florida, and look, obviously we're cutting against the grain. We're standing up to federal overreach.
The political battle comes just as kids are returning to school and district leaders are increasingly concerned about keeping students and staff safe. Across the country, more states are considering stricter protocols. In California, the governor passing a mandate requiring all public school staff to get vaccinated or tested weekly for COVID. And here in Los Angeles, they are going even further. All teachers and staff will be required to get their second shot of the vaccine by mid-October, so simply getting tested will no longer be an option. In Los Angeles, Christina Coleman, Fox News.
Protesters hit the streets in Paris today, demonstrating against the government's COVID health pass mandate. The protesters marched through the city, hoping their vocal frustration would deter the government. Earlier in the week, the French government began enforcing legislation that requires people to show a QR code that proves they received a COVID-19 vaccine, had a recent negative COVID test, or just recovered from the virus before they are allowed to access restaurants and cafes or to even travel across the country. The law mandating the virus pass was approved by the Parliament last month. Still to come, as we approach the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the Department of Homeland Security is issuing a warning. They are cautioning Americans about the possibility of heightened domestic terror threats by foreign terrorists. That story and more are next.
Check out Bike
in stock now at Import Warehouse.
The Department of Homeland Security issued a National Terrorism Advisory Bulletin warning ahead of the anniversary of the September 11th attacks. The bulletin warns of the possibility of heightened domestic terror threats by foreign terrorists. Fox News' David Spunt has more from Washington.
This new bulletin put out on Friday from the Department of Homeland Security is in direct relation to the upcoming 20th anniversary of the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks in the United States. Homeland Security officials want everyone living in the United States to be vigilant leading up to that anniversary and in the months following that anniversary. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas issued the bulletin and mentioned religious holidays in and around September 11th that may be seen as a catalyst for violence. Domestic terrorists may be influenced by foreign terrorists via online forums. According to the bulletin, it says in part, such threats are also exacerbated by impacts of the ongoing global pandemic, including grievances over public health safety measures and perceived government restrictions.
You can certainly warn about the anniversary of 9/11. I think people are always very mindful about that and mindful about certain attacks that could occur around that anniversary. But once you start talking about COVID measures and other things in that bulletin, I begin to believe it waters it down.
The bulletin mentions public health safety measures and perceived government restrictions. In plain English, That's talking about the Biden administration's push to get as many people vaccinated as possible. Also, those mask mandates that continue to pop up in parts of the country as this Delta variant continues to become a serious problem in all 50 states. According to the bulletin, it expires November 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm told it could always be extended should threats warrant such an extension. In Washington, David Spunt, Fox News.
To mark 20 years since the 9/11 attacks, a group of volunteers in Pennsylvania are making candles for first responders. It's their way of saying thank you. Fox News' Brad Satin takes a closer look.
In solemn remembrance of the tragic events of September 11th, 2001, we, the Candle Committee...
This is the note that 532 Bucks County first responders will receive in honor of their service as we approach the 20th anniversary of 9/11. About 24 volunteers making candles over the past weeks, a time-consuming dipping process as a gift to the police, firefighters, and paramedics in Newtown, Middletown, and Upper Makefield townships. It's the brainchild of Skip Giddens.
My parents went to Pearl Harbor right after it was bombed and were there for the whole war.
In their spirit of service, Skip has been instrumental in candlelight vigils through many 9/11 memorials through the years. But this is a first, a gift flush with symbolism.
1,078 candles to be given as a pair.
The two representing the Twin Towers, and 20 years later, the connected wick symbolizing how our country was together back then.
Drips at the bottom are for the tears of those we lost.
And hearts made of leather.
Leather is for strength.
With the words never forget, volunteer Tara Bain will not. She lost her husband.
You know, I feel like in a small way, it's something that I can give back because so many people have given to me over the last 20 years.
And this teacher whose friend lost his dad.
I'm actually going to get the kids from my school. They're going to write thank yous.
Lessons for a new generation.
Everyone can make a difference in some way.
Our first responders did back then. They continue to do so today.
And prayers for your continued selfless dedication to others and your safety in performing your work.
We'll be right back with more news.
Train warranty.
The wave of migrants crossing the southern border shows no signs of letting up. Fox News' William Lajeunesse breaks down some statistics showing what the country has seen under the Biden administration regarding the immigration at the border.
Statistics from DHS on Thursday show humanitarian releases in November under President Trump, 12 migrants. Under President Biden in July, 58,976. And data shows that right now, fewer migrants are in detention and fewer are being deported. President Trump deported 92% near the end of his term. President Biden, fewer than half in July, despite authority to deport everyone because of COVID. Biden in July deported just 45% under Title 42, 7% left under prior orders of removal or voluntarily. 3% are in process, but 45% received a notice to appear. And a majority, the Border Patrol released on their own recognizance. Others going to ICE typically got released within 21 days to hotels like these in Phoenix, where taxpayers pay their bill until they join family elsewhere. Under President Biden, migrant asylum claims jumped 98%, yet just 13% who claim credible fear at the border are actually granted asylum by a judge. A handful get deported, but the vast majority either never show or complete their case.
Most of those individuals are probably just going to disappear into the United States. ICE probably doesn't even know that they're here, and they're going to be able to live their lives in the United States until they encounter DHS somehow. But most of them never will.
In fact, ICE only arrested 250 non-criminal migrants in all of July, overlooking thousands who ignored their deportation order or their NTR, notice to report. Without a penalty, the surge gets worse, something that the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said he understands.
As a matter of fact, we are making apprehensions of no-shows on the NTRs a priority from the ICE side.
So the problem is, because of overcrowding, the Border Patrol gives out those show up to ICE notices in 60 days, but about 85% do not show up. And ICE cannot get travel documents ready before 21 days, so they also are forced to release people. Together, it makes Interior or Border Enforcement a sham. In Los Angeles, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
Wearing life preservers and carrying babies, asylum seekers primarily from Central America crossed the Rio Grande on inflatable rafts today and turned themselves into U.S. border authorities in southern Texas. Border arrests have risen up to 20-year highs in recent months, but many of the migrants are returned to Mexico under Title 42, a measure that allows the U.S. government to expel migrants crossing the border because of the coronavirus pandemic. President Joe Biden, who campaigned on a more humane immigration approach, has reversed many of the restrictive policies of his Republican predecessor, but has kept this controversial measure fueling criticism from immigration advocates. The administration says the expulsions are necessary to keep the U.S. detention centers from becoming overwhelmed during the pandemic, which they say would create a risk for government workers, migrants, and the public. Well, stay right there. We've got a lot more news headed your way, as well as another look at your weather with meteorologist Nick Kelly and your KOAM Sports Report with Danny Terzer. That's all coming up right here on your KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. And right after this short break, we've got an update on Afghanistan, where the Taliban continues to conquer cities. Today, the country's second largest city fell into the Taliban's hands. Details are next.
If you are
Afghanistan's second largest city fell into the grips of the Taliban today. A Twitter video posted by a Taliban spokesperson shows people in cars gathered around the gate leading to the Kandahar governor's office. Two people hoist a flag at the gate to declare the city has been seized by Taliban insurgents. The development comes as the Biden administration is sending 3,000 troops to Kabul, Afghanistan airport to help with the partial evacuation of the U.S. embassy personnel. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby says those troops are for embassy assistance and not Afghanistan's war with the Taliban. Police and security stepped up their presence in Afghanistan's capital today as the Taliban continues to seize Afghan cities. The city of Kabul remains threatened as the Taliban forces continue their attacks. The Taliban has already taken over most of the northwest and southern regions of Afghanistan. Not even 3 weeks ago, the U.S. and NATO began withdrawing their remaining troops from the country. We'll be right back with meteorologist Nick Kelly and another look at your weather. Don't go anywhere.
For over 13 this fall.
Even though we had quite a bit of cloud cover stay in place for today and maybe a few showers during the morning, thankfully it helped us out with temperatures. We thankfully stayed in the mid to upper 80s, especially with Joplin topping out around 87 today. Much of the area fared the same way. Thanks to the time lapse from Indigo Sky, this is how most of us look to start the day out. Quite a bit of cloud cover this morning. And for some of you, a few stray showers this morning. Thankfully didn't amount to anything more than 1/10 of an inch, really. Then during the afternoon, we were using the Skywatch Storm Tracker to keep an eye on some very spotty showers and a couple of little thunderstorms. And again, in our very far southern counties, they were really primed to get going around areas along the south of US 60, like Pineville, Knoll, back toward what am I thinking? Southwest City, and even down as far south as Siloam Springs. But all that activity is pretty much gone, and we're going to keep that radar nice and quiet as we go through the rest of the night. And the sky is looking okay as well as we look outside from 7th and Rangeline. 76 in Joplin, dew point of 64. Thankfully not high enough to give us a feels like number that makes it feel hotter or warmer than it actually is. And that goes for much of the area. Most of us still sitting in the mid 70s, but I'm seeing a few spots trying to drop back quickly, like Iola 68, 72 in Monette. And for some of you just warm enough or just a little bit of a higher dew point, it might feel like the upper 70s to near 80, but all in all, it's been feeling pretty good to be out and about late on this Saturday night, while the Skywatch Storm Tracker keeps an eye on a few severe thunderstorms. But look at how they're tracking. They're coming out of western Nebraska, but they're pretty much diving straight south. So they're going to stay along the Kansas-Colorado line along a weak boundary. That's about it. But for us, this stalled out front still parked right on top of us. So that is going to play a role in our forecast for tomorrow before we see another storm system in the upper levels come into play. But with this setup still in place, we will keep the heat away, thankfully, as we wrap up the weekend tomorrow. Most of us during the overnight will drop back into the mid 60s, but some of you north and west of Joplin, I would not be surprised if you try to sneak back towards 63 or 62 before we hit sunrise in the morning. Then we'll be back in the lower 80s to start the afternoon out. And then as we head toward the afternoon, Temperatures topping out very similar to today. 66 in the morning, 82 by noon, and a high of 86 with mainly an east breeze during the day at 5 to 10. Note the thunderstorm icon, though, by late afternoon and into the evening. That's again along our stationary front where we could see a stray storm or two pop up, but they'll fade away after sunset. We'll start mild and nice again Monday morning before we see a little bit of an uptick in our rain chances for Tuesday. Still isolated storms, but an uptick because of this upper low that'll develop over Kansas on Monday. And look at how it really comes into play on Wednesday. This will keep us mostly cloudy with scattered rain and storms on Wednesday. That'll move out before we see another cold front come our way by Friday. So all in all, this is setting us up for some rain chances that we could certainly use, and doing its part to mainly keep heat out of the way. 86 tomorrow, 87 on Monday, 89 on Tuesday, 83 if we're lucky for Wednesday afternoon, Mike. Then a quick jump to 91, but then we're back in the 80s for next weekend.
Hey, I'm glad we are cooling off because some kind of scary news about the last month. If you've been feeling like this summer is hotter than ever, you are not wrong. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said Friday that July was the hottest month ever on Earth since record keeping began. NOAA says average worldwide land and ocean surface temps were 1.67 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than the 20th century average for July, which is 60.4 degrees. NOAA called the record part of a, quote, disturbing and disruptive path for global climate change. All right, stick around, sports fans. We'll be right back with Danny Terzer and your KOAM News at 9 Sports Report.
The softball season in Oklahoma is underway. Today is the final day of the Lucky 7 Conference Tournament. Wyandotte and Fairland meet in the championship game. Great start to the game for the Owls and Erica Schertz. She strikes out 2, then throws a wild pitch. She'll make up for it with this play, tags the runner out at home to end the inning. Alexis Boyd puts the Owls on the board, knocks one through the gap. Keena Webb scores to make it 1-0. Wyandotte responds. Taylor Lundian gets a base hit out to left and the tying run comes in. Wyandotte finishes this one off. The Bears are the Lucky 7 Conference Tournament champs. It's finally time. The Kansas City Chiefs play their first of 3 preseason games tonight. The Chiefs travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Byron Pringle pulls in a 5-yard pass from Chad Henne for the Chiefs' lone touchdown of the night so far. Harrison Butker does add 3 with a 52-yard field goal. Chiefs lead 10-9 in the third quarter. In Major League Baseball, the Royals and the Cardinals are playing their second and final series of the season. St. Louis took the first series just last weekend, winning 2 of 3 at home. Now the Royals are hosting. They got shut out on Friday, looking to even up the series tonight. Kansas City makes a late push, but St. Louis dominates, winning 9-4. Nolan Arenado 2 for 4 tonight with 4 RBI. Paul Goldschmidt drives in 3 more. The Cardinals win the series and will go for the sweep on Sunday. Sporting Kansas City on the road tonight, taking on FC Dallas. FC Dallas won the first meeting between the two teams this season. Tonight, Alan Polito gives Sporting Kansas City an early lead, scoring in the 12th minute. Daniel Shallowy doubles the lead in the second half, his 11th goal of the season. They go on to get the shutout win, 2-0. We'll be right back with more news.
We're here to help.
Welcome back. First, it was layoffs, then it was staffing shortages. Now, some restaurant owners are saying they just need a break. Across the country, restaurants are shutting their doors for a week or more to save their staff from burning out. Fox News' Katie Byrne takes a look.
You think we're back to normal, but we're still trying to figure things out, and I don't know what normal is anymore.
Even before the pandemic, restaurant workers say the job could be tough.
You know that you're going to work incredibly long hours, and most of it is not glitz and glamour.
Then you mix in COVID-19 layoffs and staffing shortages.
You know, everyone is definitely overworked, emotionally drained, stressed out.
More restaurants are taking their first vacations in years.
So we took a 4-day weekend. We called it a mental health break because that is honest to God what it is. We needed time to breathe.
Paul Einbund runs the Morris in San Francisco. He says the decision to close wasn't easy.
As a businessman, it's crushing because we know that we could be making money, but I don't have any regret about this. I will close again. It will definitely hurt our bank account.
Kitchen 519 in Glendora, New Jersey let their customers know they were closing for a week on Facebook, saying they'll be camping with little to no service.
Are you bringing in drinks?
In Philadelphia, a restaurant group is trying something totally different.
So we're all going to Cancun, Mexico, which is just insane.
Dana Canalicchio works for FCM Hospitality.
Just the check.
In October, they'll be taking around 300 of their employees on an all-expenses-paid trip to Mexico.
We just thought this would be a great way to let them know, like, thank you for sticking by us.
Ian is bartender for them. He says this will be his first big vacation in years.
Ever since I started working here, I've never really had the opportunity to take a trip like this.
After working through COVID,
I can't wait. I don't think I was this gray when it started, so let's just put it that way.
a lot of the restaurant owners I talk to say they want to keep taking breaks like this because they say it boosts morale, and while we're dealing with COVID, they say it's worth it, even if it means losing money. In Philadelphia, Katie Byrne, Fox News.
South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker will soon be the new owners of a unique Denver area Mexican restaurant called Casa Bonita. The Denver eatery was featured in a 2003 episode of the hit cartoon. The restaurant has a pink facade, indoor waterfall, cliff jumpers, and entertaining skits. Stone and Parker came to an agreement to buy the restaurant out of bankruptcy. The duo says they know locals love the place, and they're planning on making some upgrades to the menu. Casa Bonita has not served food since March of 2020, but has been open for tours after filing for bankruptcy earlier this year. We're not done yet here on your KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. And when we return, some bad news for the Tony Bennett fans out there. The legendary crooner is hanging up his hat and calling it a career, but he has still got some new stuff headed your way. That story and more are next. Duke University researchers say that human metabolism and its slowdown is more gradual than previously thought and really doesn't begin to fully decline until after age 60. The scientists looked at data in more than 6,600 people from 1 week old to 95 in 29 countries. Researchers say slowdown is gradual, declining at only 0.7% each year. And it isn't always timed to traditional life markers such as puberty, the teen years, midlife, menopause, or other life phases. The smooth Italian crooner who left his heart in San Francisco is now leaving a legendary life of performing. Tony Bennett has canceled his fall and winter 2021 dates and is retiring from touring. Bennett is leaving under doctor's orders while battling Alzheimer's disease. The 95-year-old Queens native has won 20 Grammy Awards in standards, show tunes, jazz, and over 70 years. Bennett has made a splash with younger crowds because of recent collaborations. He recorded 2 shows with Lady Gaga last week at Radio City Music Hall for a later broadcast. Hey, well, thanks so much for spending some of your Saturday with us. We'll see you tomorrow for more KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. Have a great night. Stay safe out there.